Hello. This is a review of the recently launched Amazon automated pricing feature. This new feature is available at no additional cost for sellers already paying $39 a month for a pro seller account. This presentation is mostly targeted at FBA booksellers who have experience with third-party repricing services, or who reprice their inventories manually. The presentation will discuss what this new Amazon feature means for them. Sellers of merchant-fulfilled items may also find some benefit from this presentation. First, a quick background. As many FBA sellers know, paid third-party auto repricing services are usually excellent for merchant-fulfilled items, but are less ideal for repricing FBA items. This is because Amazon provides third-party application developers with only the lowest 20 prices for a particular item. If all the lowest prices for a particular item are merchant-fulfilled, the application receives no FBA price data, and wrongly assumes there are no competing FBA offers for that item. This means you cannot auto-reprice that item against FBA-only offers and must choose to either reprice it manually, compare it to merchant-fulfilled prices, or set it to a default price and not reprice it at all. Each option is less than ideal. This inability to properly handle FBA prices has easily been one of the biggest headaches and drawbacks of automated repricing services for FBA sellers, especially booksellers. Some sellers go as far as to pay virtual assistants to reprice their inventories manually on a regular basis. Amazon has introduced a new, built-in automatic pricing feature. It is currently in beta, and can be accessed through the Pricing tab in your navigation menu. It basically allows you to create different pricing rules, set up different parameters for them, and then select specific items in your inventory that are to be repriced according to said rule. This is a quick example of the parameters available when creating a new pricing rule. I won't go into great detail because clear instructional videos are available on Amazon's website. You basically enter a name for the rule. Then you can choose to compare to the buy box price or the lowest price. You can select whether to match this price or to stay below or above it by a certain dollar or percentage quantity. Then you can filter which items you want to compare your offer to. If you are matching a low price, you can choose to compare only items fulfilled by the same channel. That is, if you're FBA, to compare prices to only other FBA prices. You can choose to compare your price only to offers that are the same condition or better, offers from sellers with similar or higher feedback rating, or only to third-party sellers rather than Amazon's own offerings. Finally, you select the inventory items that you want to add to the rule, set the minimum and maximum price guidelines, then click the plus sign to add that item. Automated pricing will begin within 15 minutes. You can see the item's pricing history by clicking on Price History located in the Your Price column in blue. In this presentation, I'm going to discuss my experiences with testing the service for most of the day on its first day available. I selected a small sample of specific books with certain features, high to low sales rank, few to many competing offers, etc. Then, I tested auto repricing them for 8 hours. I will discuss the positives and negatives, and any bugs I found. The biggest positive of this is, of course, that unlike with third-party repricers, you can see FBA prices for 100% of your items. My third-party automated service could not see FBA prices on more than 2/3 of my books, especially popular ones with many cheap merchant-fulfilled offers. Items that are not regularly repriced can sit around for months until they are finally sold during high-volume periods like back-to-school or holiday season, or they may sit around for ages losing value until they are no longer profitable, all the while costing you months of storage fees. This new Amazon service eliminates this problem. It will mean more sales sooner, fewer storage fees, and more effective in competitive pricing, which means more profits. Another positive is that it is basically an automated and greatly improved version of a method many FBA sellers use to manually reprice their items. Many FBA sellers used to go into their inventory table preferences, set their low price column to filter for items with similar subconditions and fulfillment channel, then click Select All and Match Low Price. This used to be the only way they could access FBA lowest price comparison prices for all their items, but they had to manually repeat the process regularly. Furthermore, the only direction prices could go was down. If your price was already the single lowest price for an item, the system wouldn't raise your price to match the second lowest price. Also, you were subject to matching outliers, and you may not always remember to carefully deselect items you wanted to exclude, which was easy to forget. Amazon's auto repricing is basically like an automated version of this process, with significant improvements that help you avoid all the mistakes I just mentioned. If your price is the single lowest price and there is at least one other competing offer that is priced higher, your prices can go up to match the second lowest price. Your required minimum price means you avoid extreme outliers. The fact that you must add each SKU to the rule one by one means you don't have to remember to exclude items. Most third-party repricing services will automatically reprice your entire inventory. You have to remember to place items you want to exclude to a particular exclusion list, which can be easy to forget. With Amazon, you simply just don't add the item in the first place. One limitation of Amazon's new service is that it lacks the intelligent repricing option that many paid services offer. These options use complex algorithms to imitate human decision-making. For example, they may take sales rank into account when pricing items, and know to avoid extreme outliers. Or they know to ignore particular high-volume sellers who are notorious for frequently repricing and undercutting competitors by a cent. Amazon's new service cannot do all these things. However, you can intelligently reprice to a certain extent by carefully setting your minimums and maximums, and carefully creating different rules to accommodate different kinds of items. For example, for fast-selling items, you can create a rule that prices items a little above the lowest subcondition price, because you know the book will probably sell anyway. For slower-selling books, you might produce a different rule that matches the lowest price for any subcondition because you want the book to sell faster. And so on and so forth. A feature I find negative is the fact that you cannot set the same default maximum price for every item. Most third-party repricers allow sellers to set a very high maximum possible price, like $600, that applies to all items and accommodates potentially high price upswings. For this Amazon service, however, there are complicated rules governing the maximum allowable price you can set for each item. For minimum prices, you simply have to make sure that your price is higher than Amazon's fees. For maximum prices, the rules are somewhat more complex. Let me read them to you as an example. Maximum price validation. Your maximum item price must be less than 6 times the ASIN's recent sales price, or $200, whichever is higher. For example, if an ASIN's recent sales price is $10, your maximum price must be less than $200. If an ASIN's recent sales price is $50, your maximum price must be less than $300, $50 times 6. If your maximum price falls outside of the maximum price validation rule, we will show you the maximum price allowable in line with your SKU. In most cases, if your maximum price is less than 2 times your current price, you will not see a maximum price error. For example, if your price is $100 and your maximum price is $550.99, you should not see a maximum price error. I understood the instructions as meaning that you can set the maximum price to less than $200 for items whose 6 times recent sales value was less than $200. The instructions said, your maximum item price must be less than 6 times the ASIN's recent sales price, or $200, whichever is higher. But my attempt to set $199 as a maximum price for many inexpensive paperbacks always led to errors. I don't know if this is a bug, or if the price instructions are wrong. The max prices are completely different for different items and can change frequently, and this slows you down immensely. You may have to just pick values that are lower than you'd like to avoid being slowed down by error warnings. Also, many sellers have had the pleasure of selling a book for an extremely high price because they have the only FBA copy left. If max prices are determined by the previous sale or limited to certain dollar values, this could limit your ability to sell unique copies for high prices. Another negative is that you have limited batch repricing capabilities. This is mostly because you cannot easily set a default maximum price for all your items, and because the system will only reprice items that are active and in stock. That means you cannot upload all your listings at some default price and let the auto repricer find an effective price for you before your items arrive at Amazon's warehouse. Even if you select a reasonable default price, there is a risk of an accidental sale in the period between when your listing becomes active and the time at which you set repricing rules plus the 15 minutes it takes those repricing rules to take effect. Perhaps you can upload listings at a safely high default price, but it's doubtful you'll find a default that is high enough for all your items without triggering deactivations due to price alerts. I did find a few bugs and concerns during my one-day test. One item was particularly problematic. I chose it because it had a bestseller rank of under 100 and usually sold within hours. I tested 2 copies of the same item with different SKU values. Both items kept being automatically priced up to $12, when the adequate price should have been about $7. Also, the minimum and maximum price fields of the items would be emptied for no reason, and trying to place any value in them would lead to an error. Furthermore, my items disappeared from the items used price listings page. A second concern is that, as mentioned earlier, the $200 versus 6 times the previous sale price criteria for maximum price feature might be buggy. The instructions are too unclear to tell. The final concern is not a bug. One of my items experienced a race to the bottom effect. Its price reduced by a few cents every hour or so. There was only one other seller whose item had the same sub-condition as mine, and this individual must have been using an auto repricer designed to undercut the competition by a certain percent. If I had been repricing thousands of books, I would probably never have found this item, and there may have been a race to my minimum price. This demonstrated a problem with Amazon's instant response repricing. I've read elsewhere that Amazon's new repricer evaluates prices as often as every 15 minutes. The important thing is, the repricing is frequent and out of your control. With most third-party services, you can specify how often and at what specific times of the day you wish you reprice your inventory. For example, I reprice 3 times a day: morning, afternoon, and evening. These less frequent repricings would mean less need for my competitor to reprice down to beat my prices, and the race to the bottom would have at least been slower. The problem can be remedied to an extent by carefully choosing your minimum for every item. To summarize, there was one bothersome bug: maximum price rules are unclear, and it would be nice if default maximum prices were allowed and more batch listing features were included. Overall, however, this new service fills a major repricing need for FBA sellers, especially booksellers. Merchant-fulfilled sellers will also benefit greatly, but can probably get more intelligent pricing from external paid services. For FBA booksellers, This might be the only option for automatically repricing your entire inventory against other FBA offers only. To repeat the positives, unlike third-party apps, it can see and match FBA prices for 100% of your items, which means less manual repricing and more profits due to more sales sooner, more effective pricing, and lower storage fees. And it could also mean one less monthly subscription for FBA sellers to pay, although I'm not ready to commit to it just yet. I hope to test it on about 30 items for several weeks. All in all, this new feature could mean that a major pricing headache for FBA sellers could potentially be eliminated.